So the question now is the fuel tank savable? And the answer is no, it's not savable. So the two big goals are get the brakes going and get the fuel going. That way this thing can drive out of here and back in. Working on the fuel tank here, I'm gonna try to remove this shield, then drop the tank, then pull all the lines out, make the lines in my heated garage so I'm not out here freezing. So far, got one bolt out. This was a 1/2-inch bolt, and this was a 1/2-inch bolt. This one spun out, this one broke. They're not in the best shape, so I'm not too optimistic that any of this will be saved, but we're gonna shoot for it. We're gonna try to get it all savable. Maybe we can wire brush this or sandblast it and throw it back up. So I'll work on that now. So that was definitely a messy job. Let's see if she pops free. Oh, hitting on the fenders. I think on the muffler up front. So let's see if I can pull this piece down. Lots of rust, lots of dust. So the skid plate for the fuel tank is out. It's got this material in it. It looks like some sort of fiber. So I'm gonna probably line this with rubber, but it's plenty good enough to just wire brush and clean up. Might be able to even sandblast it. I doubt it'll fit in the sandblaster. I don't know, maybe I'll figure out if that's worth saving or not. I can also patch it, roll this over, but I think it's savable. So the question now is the fuel tank savable? And the answer is no, it's not savable. And even though it's really clean, I still think we're gonna replace our fuel lines. But so obviously the hole is big enough for me to stick my phone and record in there, so. Pretty impressive how bad the outside is and how good the inside is, but we'll get this pulled. We'll take a better look at it. All right, the tank is out. A few things. These hoses were cracked, so I ended up cutting them. You can see where they're cracked back there. And the part that plugs into them is actually rusted out as well, so I'm gonna need a full new neck from tank all the way up to the fill spout. So as far as the sending unit goes, I'm not sure if they come with the new ones or not, but I obviously have to get a new tank. So we will see if it comes with a new sending unit. And now we're ready to start pulling hose pieces off and making new fuel line. First fuel line is marked. I'm gonna go just from the tank all the way up to the fuel pump, and I'm gonna bring them all home and we'll know exactly what goes where. Here you can see the hole in the tube. So I'm probably gonna just wire brush this, cut it, and make the rubber hose a little longer. And then when I was cutting off the other tube, I poked into this just a little bit. So I'm just gonna run a little bead there, wire brush this whole thing, paint it black. But it came out pretty easy. So we'll get it all cleaned up, get it back in there. That is a very long fuel line. The only thing I had to take off was the portioning valve to get it out. How it's going in, I do not know, but hopefully it goes in a lot easier than it came out. So here's the reason we're doing this in the first place. Although it probably could have been salvaged, I went to go unscrew the fuel pump, and look at this, the line broke right off. So even though the tank was clean, the lines look clean. Once I got up to here, it's really not that clean. So the pump does look pretty darn new. Obviously it's been sitting for 20 years, so it can't be that new, but I'm not going to try to change that right off the bat, because I think I'm going to do that when I pull the full clip off. I'd like to look at the timing chain, so I'll likely do this when I can see the lobe of the timing chain. That way I am ensuring everything is kosher when I'm putting the pump back in. So pull this line off and we'll have all the lines off. Very successful afternoon. I got here around noon. First thing, we pulled off this tank, got all the fuel lines off. There is a total of 4 if you count the first rubber hose, then a full steel line, then a full steel line with 2 rubbers. We're going to count that as 1. And then this one goes from your fuel pump up to the carburetor. So I'm going to take these back. I got a big old roll of 5/16 fuel line laying around. So get some new rubber cut, get some new steel made up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's a closer look at that fuel line that broke off. You can see in there it is just a little bit rusty, but double flare was done right. I mean, it's really not bad, but this piece is supposed to swivel. Obviously snapped long before it swiveled, so good thing we're pulling these off, and I just don't want to add extra stress on the fuel system. So we'll get these made up, we'll get them done right, and we'll get them reinstalled. Garage is a dusty mess. Got the fuel lines wire brushed. They're in really good shape. I was thinking that they were going to be all rusted through, but the only thing I could find on this one is a dimple. So I'm going to end up repainting these and reusing them. Filler neck, I just got done welding up my little mistake with the cutoff wheel when I was taking the hose clamps off. I ended up cutting the rust off of this one. I have a little bit of hidden rust back in here, so I'm just going to paint this satin black. I'm going to paint the 2 fuel lines satin black and get them on the truck. All right, got the fuel center unit, got this piece cleaned up, got a piece of 3/8. I'm just going to weld it right on the end here, put a little bit of clear coat on it, and I will do a pressure test just to make sure I did a good weld, but I'll probably grind the weld off anyway. All right, there was a pinhole right there. So I'm gonna weld it up, regrind it, test it again. No more leak, so I'm gonna paint it, call it good to go. The fuel tank might take the paint off, but I'd rather the engine burn up the gas than to potentially have this rust. So I'm gonna throw some paint on it. Big tank came today. Looks really good. I think it was only $140. Fuel sending unit fits perfectly in there, so gonna get the lock ring on and we'll get it in the truck. I was just about to throw out the fuel tank and I heard this rattling around in it. So the fuel sender has this screen on it, I guess. I just assumed it was a tube. That's how it is on the tractors in my Volkswagen. So this is a screen. It's got plastic all ripped up. That's probably why the bottom was rusted. I think it's going to be all right. I'm not going to worry about it. I already installed the sending unit, so I'm just going to let it ride. I have no intention of filling this truck up out of an old fuel tank on the farm. Everything will be fueled up at a gas station. The tank's not rusty. I have no intention of it getting rusty, so I think we're going to be all right. All right, just got done with the gas can. Got it all wire brushed. It's looking pretty good, can't you tell? Getting ready for paint on all these rusted parts. All right, first coat of paint is on everything. It's gonna take a while longer to dry because it is only 30 degrees out. Probably gonna put one more coat on. Only took 1 coat of paint for this, so not too worried about the quality because I'm gonna eventually be using some Pt.5 on the entire chassis once we get everything in line. So this is just to prevent some surface rust, just to get us along. All right, used a jack, got it set up into place, got it about halfway up, fed the filler neck hoses on first, and then I was able to plumb on the fuel line and the fuel sending unit, and then just kind of worked it up into place. Every single one of these bolts lined up with minimal effort. As you can see, there is no hole right here. That is because I flipped it around. So all in all, I think it looks pretty good. I'll get all these bolts tightened up and the tank will be in. All right, so my $100 hose is giving me some problems. It's wanting to kink up, so I cut a little bit extra off so it could move this way. But I am a little worried that that's gonna affect how it fills up, but it's gonna sit something like that. It's very possible, it's just because it's cold in here. I could probably put in a radiator insert spring. So I'm probably gonna look something up on that. I could probably make one. I'm just worried that it will feed all the way up into the tank. So right now I'm just gonna install it, and I'm gonna let that just kind of be how it sits and hope that it fills just fine. But definitely something to think about if you're trying to put straight hose on. The angle of the tank might be a little too extreme for it, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, that's nice. All right, the tank is in, plumbing the fuel lines now. This fuel line, I still have to cut and get a hose clamp on there, but this hose went in really damn good. So this is where I ended up cutting it, and I just made this one a little longer. Unfortunately, it's not fitting in here because the clamp's in the way, so I'll run a zip tie through and I'll hold it up so it'll reduce the vibration. This one lined up pretty damn good, but the fuel line I'm using is nicer and bigger fuel line, so I was not able to snake the rubber fuel line through these frame holes, so that ended up causing me to have to cut this line. And what I did was I put a union in here, so it's probably only 4 inches, but that allowed me to snake out the front. Otherwise the hose clamp, I was gonna have to put it on in one of these holes, and that just wasn't gonna work. So I got that hose clamp installed, just need to hook it up to the fuel filter, or the fuel pump, and we should be good to go. The fuel line is just about done. Fuel line is going in, so I got it started. You can see I got some wonky bends in it, but to get it around the engine and everything, but bends are looking good, so I'll get this tightened down and then we'll get a hose ran into the carburetor. Well, while I was trying to bend the top of the fuel line at a better angle so I can get a straight inlet in with this line, I kinked it. So we're gonna cut it right here, and we're gonna try to wrap the 5/16 hose in a very slight loop to get it up and over. Or I could cut it a little closer to the vacuum advance and it would be a little bit less extreme, but it's gonna be a harder cut. So I got a small little cut-off tool, so we'll cut that, get the line on, get it plumbed in. Fuel system is plumbed. I really like the way the tank is sitting in there. It sits right in the grooves, exactly how you would want it. So, I mean, it really came together. Very tight. I can cut this extra rubber out before it gets melted on the exhaust, but this stuff is in there good, so that means it's doing its job as a vibration barrier. And the hole is still pretty noticeable, but with that rubber being under there, I'm not too worried about it collecting dirt. It does have a drain hole in the bottom, and I think it's gonna be just fine. I'll do periodic checks on it as we're going, but as far as the hose goes, as far as everything goes, I'm pretty happy with this. So we're gonna try cranking it over and seeing if the fuel pump can prime the system. All right, so we got fuel delivered to the carburetor from the fuel pump. All right, we got a real smooth idle. The choke is turning off. You can see it slowly opening up. So the electronic choke does work. I think all of our adjustments are good to go. So now the next check is to make sure that it can drive forward or not.